So last night on Impact Wrestling on Access TV, Impact Wrestling Executive Vice President Don Callis returned to the program after a short hiatus after the Hard to Kill pay-per-view in January. After a triumphant victory this past Saturday at Sacrifice, Rich Swann, of course, became the first man in Impact Wrestling history to unify both the Impact World and TNA World Heavyweight Championships. Now, Swann will see himself in arguably one of the biggest matches, well, the biggest match of his career, there's no doubt about that, and one of the biggest matches in Impact Wrestling history against the AEW World Champion Kenny Omega at the main event of the upcoming Rebellion pay-per-view in a title versus title match on April 24. But before these two victors come face-to-face once more, the invisible hand, Don Callis, made his return to the Impact Zone this week to warn the new Unified Impact World Champion what lies ahead of him in 5 weeks' time. Now, Callis at first tried to butter up and tried to really say lots of nice things about the new unified champion, saying he's been rooting for him ever since he joined the company, ever since he joined Impact Wrestling in 2018. But now Swann is the face of Impact Wrestling. Callis just can't see Swann and Omega playing the same on the same playing field as world champions. Callis stated, quote, "Swann is a once-in-a-decade talent, whereas Kenny Omega is a once-in-a-millennium talent." He also mentioned that Swann is a star in his own right, but Omega is a god of pro wrestling. And to add insult to injury during this promo, which was fantastic, by the way, we'll get into this in a second, Callis brought up the hard-fought loss Swann, Moose and Chris Sabin took against Omega and the Good Brothers at the main event of the Hard to Kill pay-per-view in January. In Callis' eyes, he said that he sees history repeating itself come April once Swann and Omega square off one-on-one. Now, according to PW Insider, and this is really important as well, it's been reported that Kenny Omega is right now reportedly in Nashville, Tennessee, filming segments for upcoming Impact Wrestling television tapings. Now, it'll be interesting to see when Omega does indeed make his return to being back on Impact Wrestling television, but also when he makes his return to actually be appearing inside the Impact Zone once more, because it's been around 2 months or so since his last appearance on Impact Wrestling television. Now, you can see the picture there of the exchange that Rich Swann and Don Callis had last night on Impact Wrestling. Initially today, actually, and we will be dropping the video talking about Tony Khan and the latest paid advertisement. We talk about those every week when it comes to Impact Wrestling, the AEW working relationship and all that kind of stuff on the channel. But what I did want to talk about and what I did want to start off with was this segment between Don Callis and Rich Swann last night on Impact, because frankly, it was phenomenal. I mean, it was absolutely fantastic. Now, as someone that's been a fan of Don Callis for years, whether it's as the Jackal in WWE or Cyrus the Virus in ECW or whatever he's done, I think sometimes it can be slightly overlooked about how good of a talker that Don Callis is and how good of a promo that Don Callis is. And obviously he's there, even though he hasn't been on Impact Wrestling television in recent weeks, he's there in every Impact Wrestling television taping because he's the executive, or one of the executive vice presidents of the company. But this move in recent months, obviously starting with AEW and becoming a manager of sorts or a mouthpiece for Kenny Omega on AEW television and Impact Wrestling television, has just been a stroke of genius, because Don Callis, say what you want maybe about him back in the day with his pro wrestling ability or anything like that, but there's one thing's for sure, that is, as a talker, whether that is an in-ring promo or on color commentary, he's right up there. There's people in the business right now who are just one of the best on the microphone. And if you haven't watched the promo last night, because Rich Swann did a decent promo to kick off the segment. Rich Swann came out, spoke about facing Kenny Omega, spoke about his victory Saturday at Sacrifice, and again, I thought it was a good promo by Rich Swann. I've spoken about this quite a few times over the course of the last few months, already ever since Rich Swann became the Impact World Champion here on the channel, that obviously there are some doubters that really question if he's world champion material, and I think those people just don't watch Impact Wrestling enough or don't watch Impact Wrestling at all. They just look at Rich Swann as the former Cruiserweight champion in WWE. How can he be the world champion in Impact? Well, if you watch a segment like this, you'll see why. I thought his promo last night in Impact was fantastic. Once again, straight into the hard camera, serious and focused about facing Kenny Omega at Rebellion. But it's when Don Callis really got involved that the segment went from here to here. I mean, Don Callis' promo last night, it was brilliant. It was brilliant. There's so much I want to talk about when it comes to it. First of all, Don Callis' entrance music. I do want to mention this briefly. Don Callis' entrance music is amazing. I mean, I wish I knew actually off the top of my head what it was called, but it's a well-known piece of music, and it reminds me. It makes you think like someone's getting married. I mean, it's like walking down the aisle. It's phenomenal, and it's so perfect. It is so perfect and in keeping with this character that he is developing. This invisible hand of moving all of these chess pieces, playing four-dimensional chess, and moving things and manipulating things, and making sure everything goes to his greater plan, and he's always thinking all of these years and moments ahead, and just that music, it's so pompous and it's so over the top. I thought that was fantastic. And just after he finished the promo actually as well, hearing the music play once again, because it's such like a sort of classical and peaceful music, it just becomes so sinister. Depending on the tone of the promo, the music can just really extenuate that, or make it seem so much more and bigger. And that's exactly what that music did. It just made it seem so sinister and made Don Callis seem so over the top. And he's talking about Kenny Omega being a god, and just using these big superlatives and the way that he's describing things and his grand plan for everything. And it was so perfect. It was so perfect. But the promo itself was essentially him saying to Rich Swann that he was, like I mentioned in the report, a big advocate of Rich Swann and really wanted to see him do great things since he joined the company in 2018. And he kind of slightly took credit for that, and saying that he helped steer Rich Swann in the right direction, and as the invisible hand helped manipulate all of Rich Swann's successes in Impact Wrestling, but that he couldn't do that for him anymore because obviously Kenny Omega is a god and he has been the invisible hand for Kenny Omega. And he referenced beating Okada in New Japan, and he referenced beating Jon Moxley in AEW, and that Don Callis was there the whole time. And really what he drove home during this promo as well, if you really want to strip everything back and to its basics, the thing that he really drove home in this segment was the one-winged angel. That was over and over again, one-winged angel, one-winged angel. At one point, he literally leans in to Rich Swann, is like this far away from him, and just screaming, one-winged angel, one-winged angel, one-winged angel. He's basically saying to him, look, you lost to the one-winged angel at Hard to Kill, and that was part of the promo as well, that the reason you lost at Hard to Kill, because remember, Rich Swann took the pinfall. He's saying the reason you lost at Hard to Kill is because Kenny Omega not only is a superior pro wrestler and a wrestling god, but also because you got hit with a one-winged angel. And once you get hit with that, it's over. It's game over. Nobody kicks out unless you're, I don't know, Ibushi or whatever. Who I think there's only one person that has kicked out of it. So that was the point. Now, obviously, you can read into that a couple of different ways. I still think that Kenny Omega is going to become the Impact World Champion at Rebellion. I know I've seen a lot of people, and I'm really actually surprised by this, I've seen a lot of discussion on social media and some in the comments here on the channel that state, oh well, if there was ever a match that was going to be a disqualification or a no contest, or they're going to get out of it with both people holding their respective world championships, I mean, they could do that. I just really don't see it. I really don't see that happening, because if Impact Wrestling does that, they lose their credibility like that. I mean, they really would. I mean, this is such a big match. This is a match that's hyping up not only champion versus champion from two separate companies, two rival promotions, but also it's title versus title. You've sold an entire pay-per-view on the fact that someone at the end of the pay-per-view will be the Impact and AEW World Champion. There will be one person that holds both World Championships from two separate promotions. That's what the pay-per-view is sold on. The pay-per-view, if it does great buy rate numbers, if it does great on social media, if it trends worldwide, and if Impact Wrestling does this great business through this pay-per-view, that is all based on the assumption that at the end of the night there will be one person that holds the Impact and AEW World Championship. If they do a double disqualification, or if they do a no contest, or they find a way to get out of the event without that happening, without one person holding the AEW and Impact World Championships, then I think they will just lose their credibility instantly, and they will turn whatever fan interest they've generated and whatever people they've managed to bring back to Impact Wrestling, or new fans of Impact Wrestling from an AEW audience or from just a wider pro wrestling audience, they will turn them away instantly, because they'll go, oh, it's just another WWE. Because how often do we see that in the world of WWE? This big match hyped up and you're thinking, great, this is amazing. They've got to go with one way. I don't know where they're going to go. It's difficult to call, and then they just do such a BS finish. It's a double disqualification, it's a count out, it's a no contest, or it just doesn't end anyway. I mean, we've seen the uproar when it comes up with WWE over the years. We've seen Hell in a Cell matches end in no contests multiple times, and you saw the uproar with that because it just feels very cheap. And as a consumer, as a fan, you feel cheated and you feel like they've hoodwinked you and they've stole your money. And I know I'm a big advocate of on here saying that pro wrestling is about making you feel and making you have emotions, but not in the extent that you feel that you've been robbed of your own money. At this period of time, during a pandemic where money is tight for everyone, you don't want to feel like a promotion has just conned you. You don't want to feel like a promotion has robbed you of your money by promising something that they couldn't deliver. It's false booking. There's a difference there between heat and having a good angle that, generates heat. And then there's another thing of watching a show and just going, they lied to me. They lied to me. And I don't think Impact Wrestling can afford to do that. WWE, they've done it for years because they can afford to do it. Now, obviously, less people are arguably watching WWE in the traditional television ways than ever, certainly not on social media, but you could argue that after a while, that kind of booking has really eroded WWE's audience. That is a fair argument to make, but they can get away with it. They're WWE, they're $1 billion company, they've got this massive following regardless. Sometimes the outcomes of that kind of stuff, it frustrates the fans and you can moan and complain on social media, but in the grand scheme of things, it's going to stop you watching WWE the next week. For casual fans, maybe. For hardcore fans, no. When it comes to Impact Wrestling, they can't afford to do that because their viewer base is so much smaller, and the people that they would have attracted maybe for the first time or the first time in a long time, they're testing out Impact Wrestling now. And if they don't like what they see or they don't like the outcome because they feel like Impact Wrestling lied or falsely promoted something, they just won't watch again. And Impact Wrestling can't afford that. They can't afford that to happen. So it's a really big opportunity for Impact Wrestling, as was the Hard to Kill pay-per-view, as will be the Rebellion pay-per-view, that they can't afford to do a double disqualification. They can't afford to do a no contest because it just would reek of insincerity. And I think that would be the massive problem there. So I just don't see that. I really don't see that. I think, and I predicted this at the start of the year, it was a couple of predictions. My first prediction was that Kenny Omega would challenge for the Impact World Championship this year. That is happening. And my second was that Kenny Omega will be the Impact World Champion at some point this year. And I think that's going to happen in April too. And that's just the situation. That's the situation with that. I know obviously it could be easier to do the double disqualification or the no contest, but I don't think it's going to happen. When it comes to the one-winged angel, it was certainly a point that was really driven home. Overly so in this promo, and it makes you wonder, okay, what are they hinting at here? What are they suggesting that is going to happen? Are they really suggesting that Rich Swann is going to kick out of the one-winged angel? That's what a lot of people were discussing coming out of this promo, and look, it's a possibility. It's a possibility. I don't mean this to be disrespectful to Rich Swann, I just don't know why Kenny Omega would be willing to do that. I think that would be my point of view there, my thinking there, because only one person has kicked out the one-winged angel. I mean, it is such a protected finish. I mean, it really is such a protected finish. Even people in AEW aren't kicking out of it. Jon Moxley kind of did it at AEW Revolution, but that was just a case of the foot got actually caught on the rope, which caused an explosion in the barbed wire death match, exploding barbed wire death match. That was the way they kind of got around it, but it wasn't Jon Moxley kicking out. It was kind of accidental in that sense. I just don't know if Kenny Omega, after how protected that finisher has been, would be willing to do that for someone in Impact Wrestling or the Impact World Champion, that kind of thing. You would think maybe it would be a bigger opponent. But on the flip side of things, you can say, look, this is a massive match. I know people might, laugh and sort of turn their noses up or roll their eyes at that when I say it's a big match, but it is a big match. When was the last time you had title versus title, one big promotion, another big promotion, and possibly coming out, but you're going to have someone that's the champion of both promotions? When's the last time that happened? I mean, we'll have to go back to the 70s, and that ended up in a no contest and all that kind of stuff. So it's a massive match. It's a massive match, and maybe it's actually justified. Maybe it is justified for a match of that caliber and a match of that, historic kind of feel to it. Maybe it is actually worthy of having someone kick out of the one-winged angel, and if that is the case, then maybe Kenny Omega has agreed to that. I don't know. I think, given the fact that they mentioned it so much in the promo last night, certainly, you could maybe possibly think that that's going to be the angle that they're going with. That it maybe takes two one-winged angels, and that's the way of kind of curbing the criticism of some people who are saying, well, why would you put the Impact World Championship on an AEW guy? How does that help Impact Wrestling? Doesn't that hurt the roster? Well, you can kind of get around it slightly. I mean, I don't agree with that argument anyway, but you can kind of get around it slightly by saying, well, you know, he was absolutely valiant in his defeat. I mean, he kicked out the One-Winged Angel. There's only one other person that's done that. Certainly that puts over Rich Swann in that sense. That's a possibility. I think also, though, when it comes to that, I think it's ludicrous to say it's a bad idea to put the Impact World Championship on Kenny Omega. Are you serious? Kenny Omega is one of the biggest pro wrestlers in the world, arguably one of the best pro wrestlers in the world. Every single week he appears on Dynamite. He'll have the Impact World Championship. That is a billboard to say, watch Impact Wrestling Tuesday nights on AXS TV. Now, I think most in Impact Wrestling and the executive vice presidents and the officials there would probably prefer that AEW actually says that on Wednesday nights on Dynamite, because they don't really. But even if Kenny Omega has the title with him, it's an indication. It's saying, look, watch him on Tuesday nights. Watch Tuesday night on AXS TV, Impact Wrestling. Kenny Omega's the world champion of there too. And I don't think the Kenny Omega Impact World Championship reign will last a huge amount of time anyway. I think he'll probably drop it at Slammiversary in July. So I think that might be the thinking there. Maybe Rich Swann might kick out. Again, it would be surprising. It would be a heck of a moment. But look, this is a very historic match. So maybe it's the right circumstance for that. Nevertheless, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on Don Callis returning to Impact Wrestling last night to have a promo with Rich Swann, warning Rich Swann ahead of the Impact Rebellion main events title versus title match against AEW World Champion Kenny Omega? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about Impact Wrestling, AEW, WWE, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved in the community, drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube, get the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestling News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or have you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.